Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Have you ever noticed how the headlines are the same at different media outlets? You'll have the same stats, the same quotes, and the same narrative. This is not just coincidence, guys. In Australia, much of our news doesn't actually come from the outlet that you may have read it or heard it on. A lot of it comes from one organisation, and you may not really be aware of it. And it's called the AAP, the Australian Associated Press. You've probably heard of AAP Fact Check. That's them, the fact checkers. Same company, same organisation. So these guys print over 200 news articles and hundreds of images every single day. And they do that predominantly for their media subscribers. Now this AAP claims to be independent, unbiased, and factual. So I'll let you decide whether you want to believe that by the end of this video. So the AAP, or Australian Associated Press, is Australia's largest what they call Newswire service. It's a not-for-profit organisation. It was purchased about 5 years ago now by a consortium who are said to be philanthropists. Now, just to be clear, when it comes to philanthropy or philanthropists, there's no official licence or certification that makes someone a philanthropist, by the way. The word itself is just self-declared and socially accepted. A billionaire donates $50 million to a hospital, the media is going to call them a philanthropist. You might get a group of people or an individual forming a foundation, and they're going to get labelled philanthropists. But labelling someone a philanthropist does not guarantee that the money that they are giving or donating is actually clean, or that their motives are pure, or that they're entirely independent. Now, I'm not making any specific claims about any particular individual, but just be aware of that. If we think about well-known philanthropists, Jeffrey Epstein, he springs to mind. Bernie Madoff. Bernie was a well-known philanthropist in spite of setting up a $65 billion Ponzi scheme scam. Even Al Capone was a philanthropist. So I'm very skeptical of organisations run by philanthropists. So this AAP, this Australian Associated Press, if it's actually independent and unbiased, I wonder who funds it. So it's funded by, obviously, media subscribers, subscriptions from media outlets that buy or get access to news from their website or from their portal. But it relies on funding from the government, and it also receives funding from some of the biggest companies on earth, biggest corporations on earth, like Google, Meta, TikTok. And it's led by some people who have ties to every major media outlet in Australia. So maybe it's time that we look at some of the facts and maybe ask some questions about how the media really works. If you ask most people where they get their news, they're going to tell you from the TV. I watch the TV, I'll read the paper. Channel 9, Channel 7, Channel 10, ABC, SBS, Sky, 3AW, these are going to be the most common answers. Some of these news outlets do actually get their own news. They might do exclusives. They might do special investigations. They obviously monitor and report from what they see on police media, what the police media actually puts out. They report from what they hear at press conferences. But a lot of what these media outlets actually publish isn't actually derived from their own independent journalism. A lot of it is carefully crafted, carefully written by a centralised newswire. Now, obviously, the organisation itself isn't hidden as such, but most people aren't going to say, yep, I get my news from the AAP or from the Australian Associated Press. A lot of the time you do. You just don't know it. So the AAP produces pre-written, ready-to-publish news articles for the busy journalist, news on the run, ready-to-go news. Right? If you're feeling a bit lazy, maybe you can't be bothered, or if it's a slow news day or something like that, well, AAP's got you covered. So in this video, we're going to look at how this company, this organisation actually operates, who runs it, who funds it, whether it really is an independent news service. And next time you watch the news or read an article, you might be a bit more aware. So first I'll give you an example. Have a look at this article, or these articles here, from a journalist by the name of Callum God. So Callum God is a journalist at the Australian Associated Press. State crime crisis deepens, but has it hit rock bottom? You'll see the same news article and the same author from all of these various different outlets. You've got the Cootamundra Herald, Narromine News, the Southern Cross, St George and Sutherland Shire Leader, the Canberra Times, the Standard, The Courier. Same author, same article, 7 different media outlets. So Callum, who's a journalist at the AAP, has written this article, and because the AAP supplies news to over 400 different media outlets across Australia via their subscription service, and AAP doesn't disclose who their subscribers are, but if you're looking at articles like this here, then you can see the journalist Callum appears in all 7 of these different articles on Yahoo or Channel 9, then chances are that that media outlet that you're reading Callum's article on are subscribed to the AAP. And whoever the subscriber is has downloaded and shared the article, downloaded it off the AAP website, shared it on their website like it's gospel. From what I understand, these media outlets have their own options with their subscriptions. They can blank copy paste, just paste it straight onto their website. They'll obviously need to credit the author. In this case, it was Callum. But you remember, Callum is not an actual employee of the Sutherland Leader, of the Canberra Times, or of any of these companies. He's an employee of the AAP. And the other option that the media subscribers have is to be able to grab the information in that article and then expand on it, change it, edit it, and then publish it themselves. And then that editor can put their own name on it as though they wrote the article. So in this particular article that Callum produces, he's got a big list of crime stats, dot point style. It's got everything on there: 638,000 offences, 77,500 arrests. He's got offences relating to kids, offences relating to retail, family violence, motor vehicle theft, and then obviously talks about what Victoria is trying to do about it. Police set a fresh target, strengthening bail laws, machete ban, and then he obviously compares the stats to other states. So it's loaded with content. His article's loaded with content. He's then got his sources down the bottom. So this article here kind of gives you the bones, doesn't it? Well, this information is going to be available to the media subscribers to do with it what they want. You might choose to pick out one of the stats and elaborate it. Let's look at what happens if we type in Victorian crime crisis into Google. We've got an article here from The Guardian. Benita Kolovos. Benita's using same stats and the same sources as what Callum did. Slightly different angle, same sources, just like Callum. Another one here on news.com.au, Kids Drive the Surge. Now this one's authored by someone different. This is Heath Parks Hupton. Same stats, same sources, different angle. Next one is Retail World Magazine. We've got the same stats again, the same sources, but with a focus on retail crime. Herald Sun and 9 News, what are they doing? They're focusing on the kids again, underage crime, same stats, same sources, just a slightly different angle. So this is really common practice in Australian media. What do you think about this? Is it good journalism? Does it serve the people? Does it keep authorities honest? Does it keep the people properly informed? Can we trust the editors at the AAP? They say that we can. So in a 2023 Productivity Commission inquiry in their own review of philanthropy, they say, AAP is the only independent newswire service in the Australian media ecosystem, providing a unique public benefit by collecting and distributing fact-based news across Australia. An independent newswire service is an essential part of Australia's democratic infrastructure. At a time when public interest reporting is in decline, hundreds of media outlets across the country rely on AAP for accurate, fact-based reporting on issues important to Australians and our society. AAP publishes more than 200 pieces of public interest journalism, plus hundreds of images every single day. Amid the news media's polarisation and debate about ever-diminishing media diversity, AAP stands alone in providing factual, objective and independent news to millions of Australians. No spin, no agenda, just the news. We supply content to more than 400 news outlets nationally, ranging from small local papers and regional radio stations to major mastheads and the public broadcasters. Interesting, huh? I find it interesting that the AAP describes the news media that we know as polarising, with diminishing diversity. AAP says that it stands alone in providing factual, objective and independent news with no spin, no agenda, and just the news. But where does the AAP get such factual and objective and independent news from then? Well, the truth is that the majority of its content originates from the same places that mainstream journalists are going to use: press conferences, police statements, court summaries, government departments. So when hundreds of outlets subscribe to the AAP, and then when they're all running the same story, what we're going to get is, obviously, it's going to look consistent. We're going to get consistency, which gives the public the impression that what they are writing must be true. But diversity, how's that exactly? I can't see how they're actually any different. Maybe someone who's watching can help me understand that one. But having the same stories, all pushing the same narrative, gives us the perception of consensus. Consensus among a variety of diverse and intelligent journalists. They're all saying the same thing. The story's the same everywhere. So what do we say? It must be accurate. It must be true, right? We're being told the truth here. They all back each other up. So really, you'd be forgiven to think that the news reporters are all actually out there in the field doing their investigating and asking questions and grilling everyone and digging down deep like you'd think a journalist would. And then, coming back and reporting to us what they find. And maybe sometimes, yes, with some news stories, yes, I'm not obviously having a go at any particular article here. But, I hate to bring it up again, but with a big event like, say, what happened recently with Desi Freeman here in Victoria, the reporters might get notified that this has happened and they'll get run out to the scene. And that way they're reporting live from the scene. But it's very, very restricted. Police actually set up, at a place like that, an incident like that, police will set up a media staging area for the reporters. And then the reporters are basically given statements from police. They'll attend the press conferences. But optics are the priority for authorities. You will not question the narrative. If you do, you'll be swiftly shut down. So they generally stay in their little media staging area. They might talk to a few members of the public, see if they can find someone crying or scared or something like that, because it'd be great for news. Then using their extraordinarily good acting skills, they'll feed the narrative that they've been told to feed to us, straight to us. If you're lucky, you might get yourself a live cross. Don't you love a good live cross? Let's have a look at Mimi Becker here.
And Mimi Becker joins us now from Pawpunka. Mimi, the community there is on high alert for a second night.
Alicia, they are, and these are tough conditions for officers still to be out searching in. It's cold and windy and the cloud has really come in. Now, local residents who usually live within the search area, they're waiting at this roadblock to find out if they can be escorted in by officers or if they will have to stay elsewhere tonight. Residents have been sent more text messages from Victoria Police reminding them to limit travel and stay at home. So a number of Pawpunka businesses have closed to encourage people to do that, Alicia.
OK, Mimi Becker there, thank you. As police begin...
Good job. Very nice. Right, this is just my opinion. Obviously, this is just a subjective opinion here. But I think they're actors. Very stern, very serious, very convincing. Very well done. Was there anything said of substance here? In my opinion, absolutely not. Nothing about the murder weapon, nothing about the other 7 officers, no details about what happened or how. Just all very vague. And look, I can identify actors pretty easily because I am one. I'm an auctioneer. An auctioneer is an actor. Polished, precise, authoritative, professional. Fine. But it's still an act. It's a performance, guys. Most of these journalists in the live crosses are more worried about their performance than what they're actually saying. It's more about delivery, tone, pulling it off with perfect timing. It's less about the content. It's more about what we have here is a highly armed and dangerous fugitive. Sally, over to you. Police are relentless in the search and they've made it clear that they will not give up. Carl, back to you. So the AAP, it used to be owned before 5 years ago. It was owned by News Corp and 7 West, Channel 7. Interestingly, at one point, it was actually a form guide service for horse racing. And look, it nearly died 5 years ago, but it was bought and relaunched as a not-for-profit. Philanthropists saved the AAP. One of them goes by the name of Peter Tonner, who's interestingly a former CEO of News Corp. And by the way, out of interest, in recent days, Peter himself has been appointed the chairman of Channel 9. He's over here on the ABC website as well. I wonder when this man gets to sleep. John McKinnon, another philanthropist who said publicly that part of his motivation was to preserve media diversity and create a structure with mission-locked protections from shareholding influence. So, yeah, all right, not for profit, no shareholders, no corporate influence, right? Sounds good, yeah? So should we mention the government subsidies and it needs philanthropic donations? Maybe don't worry about that. Don't worry about things like that. What about the undisclosed sale terms? These guys actually purchased this business. These philanthropists actually purchased the AAP. Why don't we know what they paid for it and what the terms were? Some of the buyers in this consortium haven't been named. But don't worry about that. These people are just very generous philanthropists who have our best interests in heart, and you just need to know that. And remember, AAP is a facts-based media organisation, okay? So you can rest assured with that. These guys that own it, whoever they are top guys. And they want us, the public, fully informed. And look, hundreds of news outlets across Australia rely on and trust the AAP. So can we too? Look, AAP admits here that it relies not just on subscriptions from news outlets, but that it also thrives on generous philanthropic donations and government grants to survive. It goes on to say here, to be a viable participant in the Australian media industry, AAP needs ongoing philanthropic donations in addition to government grants and revenue from commercial distribution. AAP is not just surviving on subscriptions. It needs government money and it needs private donations. Look at this, AAP supporters. In other words, these people are giving AAP money. Specialist reporting desks, Google, Jib Foundation, McKinnon, New South Wales Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development, Meta, TikTok, International Fact-Checking Network. These organisations, these corporations, they're not just supporting them by standing on the sidelines and cheering on the AAP and wishing them good luck. They're supporting the AAP financially. So if a company requires funding from the government, guys, it can be influenced by the government. That's logical. If a company is going to rely on philanthropic donations, it can be influenced by those philanthropists. If a company relies on donations from Google or Meta or TikTok or from the International Fact-Checking Network, then it can and it will be influenced by all of those entities. So just remind me again how they're facts-based, how they're guaranteed to be facts-based, how they can assure us of no spin and no agenda. How can it be independent, objective news? So next time when you see the same headline across multiple media sites or media outlets, you'll know now that it often comes from the Australian Associated Press, an organisation funded partly by philanthropists, partly by the government and corporations, and partly by their commercial subscriptions. And it's led by some individuals with deep ties to every major media company in Australia. I hope you found the video informative today. If you did, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.